I never like to give advice, but if I do, I like to include myself as being someone who I wish what I'm going to say someone had said to me. And that is, don't be or allow yourself to be in a passive position. It is the nature of the game. You have to wait for your agent to call you. You have to wait for someone to say, hey, do you want to be in my movie? You're sitting there waiting. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot sustain yourself emotionally. You can't keep the candle inside you lit for that long a time. You must work at your craft. If it's reading plays, if it's reading novels, if it's keeping a notebook while you're walking around all day and making notes on behavior of people, standing on the corner, following people, watching the way, that's what we do for a living. You must work. And if you hear stories about great artists or champions, most of the time they're extraordinarily hard workers. I don't think people realize how hard some artists work and what they put into it. For me, what has helped me more than anything is two things: working, and that doesn't mean getting a job. It's what I've said before. It's finding a way to work. Get a few people together and have a salon once a week and read poetry, your favorite poetry, do a scene, work, act, act, act. There's no replacement for it, and you don't need to be employed to do it. And I'm not talking about even making your own film. Get together, tell jokes. We used to do that. Perform, and see work. And today you can do it. See the great work. Talk to people. Google whatever. What are the 10, 20 greatest performances on screen? Know who Julieta Messina is. Know who Marlène Dietrich is in The Blue Angel. Look at, and if you don't know this stuff, then you get no pity from me. Do you know Chaplin's works? Do you know Kazan's works as a director? Do you know Tennessee Williams' plays? So I encourage actors to, not only stay open to life and be observers of life, but go to the arts, read, 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 read. And there's no absolutes, and be welcome things that you don't expect to affect you. I grew up in or studied acting from the age of 18, and now I'm living with Duval, and we're throttling the so-called technique actors from England, like Gielgud, or those who it's all technical. They're not coming from the soul the way Brando did. But for some reason, John Gielgud is in New York doing a one-man show of T.S. Eliot's poems, and I say, well, I think I'll go see it. And I went and I sat, pretty good row, whatever. I got a single seat, and I'm watching Sir John Gielgud, the epiphany of the British actor, reading T.S. Eliot, and I'm not aware of it, and suddenly I'm just crying. And the tears are just streaming down my face. I'm 23, 24 years old. And I'm angry at myself that he's moving me so much, because he's a technical actor. Yet he was in there. He was absolutely, he got it. And it's that mysterious thing. And it's the same thing that happened to me. I think I didn't care about opera, and somehow somebody gave me an opera ticket. Again, that was opera. I want to be an actor. I want to be in the Brando School. And I go to the opera in New York, and I'm sitting there, and I think it's Marilyn Horne doing Carmen. And she's singing in Italian, and I don't understand what she's saying, and I'm just watching like that. And someone next to me gives me a tissue, and I say, what? And they says, you're crying. And I wasn't aware of it. And it was just streaming down my face. And I thought about it afterwards, and I thought, why? I didn't even know what the words were. I don't know anything about opera. But there was something above the ground. She was lifted. She wasn't human. It's like watching those miracle moments in sports. They're not human. They're not of this species. They are from something above. They're doing something that's not, that is supernatural. When I started studying acting, I asked somebody, I think it was my teacher, Barney Brown, who passed away, who I was lucky enough to have at the Pasadena Playhouse. And I said, what should I do, sir? And he said, read the American theater. And he's the one who said, you know, Eugene O'Neill was maybe the first playwright that, you know, that was the American theater. It starts with Eugene O'Neill. You can read every single play of all the great playwrights. And I read a play a day, and I kept a little notebook. All of Odette's plays, all of Inge's plays, all of, you know, so when I got to Albee and Miller and Tennessee Williams and all the one acts, that was, and I was very proud of the fact. You must do this. It's your art form, and it's there. It's there to see. See movies. It's the youngest art form out there, give or take 100 years old. I think I was born only 7 years after sound started. You know, see silent film, because silent film is pure film. And it's many times plagiarized or even satirized by actors. But the good ones didn't do that. The good ones in silent film are really good actors who are acting with, you know, as you're seeing the subtitles. They're not mugging as much as they're parodied, you know, many times by comedians. You know, after the Second World War, there was nothing in Italy. There was no studios. There was no Cinecittà. And you see shoe shine, you see pickpocket, you see De Sica going out and using non-actors with no set, with just getting a bicycle. There was no money. It was the city had been, you know, destroyed. And you see what happens when you don't, you know, when you have very little. You see absolute brilliance and a new form taking place. You can see the great film today. I had mentioned Fellini, who I was so fortunate to meet when I was promoting Tootsie in Rome in, I guess it was 1984 or something. And they said, well, you finished all your promotion. Do you want to go out to dinner with anybody tonight? I said, like who? They said, well, there's Fellini. I said, stop there. And I was able to go to his favorite restaurant, and there I am sitting with who was certainly one of the 2 or 3 heroes of mine in terms of directors. Without getting too caught up in just talking about Fellini stories, one of the things he said was, where are the great clowns? Where is the next generation of great American clowns? Who is the successor to Red Skelton, to Jimmy Durante, to George Burns and Gracie Allen, to Jackie Gleason, to Milton Berle? And of course, he was naming these, an Italian, naming these American clowns who had, for the most part, I think, originated in vaudeville and then stepped into television. And the reason I bring it up is because when we were talking about this at the table, I mentioned to my kids, and they grew up in a theatrical atmosphere, if you will, and they didn't know 9 out of the 10 people I had just mentioned. It was not their generation. And I said, wait a minute, isn't there this thing called Google? And we not only Googled them, but we could Google scenes, and they're seeing a Red Skelton scene, and it's right there for us today. And you can see these greats doing scenes from their shows, and my kids are saying, hey, he's pretty funny. Hey, she's really good. And you must take advantage of this. You must look at the work. Someone came up to me on the set today and mentioned young Young Frankenstein, and I immediately remembered Gene Hackman's absolutely brilliant performance in that as in a cameo role. You must see this stuff. This is the, you know, this is this is the stuff. What you have today, which you didn't have when I was starting out, and my contemporaries in the late 50s, 60s, my God, you've got media. My kids did it in junior high. You could make your own movie. That's extraordinary. You'll get no sympathy for me because you don't have a job. You have a job. Write your script out. You can make your own movie, and you can submit that stuff. You don't have to go even to wait for auditions. You can send them. I have friends like Spielberg or things like, and they say, yes, I always look at the stuff. If I see a short for 20 minutes and it's sent to me, I'll look at it. He'll look at it. It's amazing. It's not that don't send us 2 hours, but or do, and we'll, and if it's holding up, we'll watch it. There, you can, for the first time, I think, in the history of acting, you don't have to have a job. You can do the work. And you're not doing this because you think you're going to get a job out of this. You're doing this because this is your meat and potatoes. This is your breathing. It's your sex. If you don't love this as much as you love getting laid, you're in the wrong place. There was a guy who was hired as a psychologist for baseball. Now they do it a lot. But the first guy, they laughed at him because they hired him to be on the team, and he was telling pitchers about pitching. He was coaching batters, and they were saying, a psychologist, how's he going to help? And what he was saying is, you're a baseball player. He said, and you're batting. He says, so you're in control of everything from the time you started learning how to play baseball. And it all comes up to that moment in time, which is today, where now you're holding your bat, waiting to hit the pitch, and you strike out. You're in control of everything leading up to that moment. You're in control of everything. Everything you've learned has taken you to that moment. You're not in control of that moment. That's in the hands of the gods. But you're in control of everything after that moment. Go to the next moment in your life. Go to the next one. That's over. If you hit it, great. If you failed in a moment that is not within your control. But what you're passionate about has taken you up to that moment, and what you're passionate about is what happens after that moment. Don't let that moment decide your fate. Don't let that moment decide what happens next. You're not in here to hit the ball. You're in here to swing and keep swinging.